the 5th. The purpose of the meeting is to continue our deliberation for recommendations for the special town meeting warrant and finalize our recommendations for the special town meeting warrant. So I think everyone got the agenda and Chris's updates. Good news, free cash has been certified at 1.8 million.
Hey, the high number.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Laviolette for getting that information to everyone so quick. I actually wasn't on the list. I did see that my select board colleagues are on the list, so I did appreciate you sending that to me and Chairman Swartz. So thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So Pete, since you took the notes on the last meeting, as usual, can you just take the lead and walk us through the ones we didn't make recommendations? And we'll do those one by one and try and get through any questions we had and make a recommendation to them.
Is Kenneth Selectman Pacheco?
That's Selectman
yes.
Pacheco. Yep.
Okay.
I'm disappointed Woody didn't come tonight because he said he was going to keep an eye on me.
Busy filing a lawsuit.
You guys, you know, this will be replayed on YouTube.
He said he was keeping an eye on you. He didn't say at what time.
Yeah, that's so true.
He can watch
So-
this recording.
So true. So true. I'll send him a text message after the meeting and ask him where he was, just so he knows I was waiting for him.
All right, so the first one that was held was Article 4.
Oh, I think that was because we wanted to see what we had in
Yeah,
levy limit. So Chris, you sent that out, right?
That's correct.
And I did have a question on that. So the 160 is we are 160 below the levy limit. Is that correct?
That sounds right, Ed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're about 160,000 below the levy limit. So that's a positive. So I would recommend that we raise and appropriate, since these are expenses that are in regular budgets. And these are to make up for shortfalls in what was in the original appropriations at the beginning of the year. So that we recommend raise and appropriate of 51,088.44 as listed below in the Article 4 of the special town meeting warrant.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rendon. On a vote, Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Rendon,
Aye.
Mr. Roach.
Aye.
Next one, Pete.
Next one is Article 5. I think same reason we were looking to see what we.
Oh,
had.
yeah, so this is contract, so this will be funds. And you guys said that this contract took effect July 1st, correct?
Correct.
So this is no prior year stuff, so. Okay, so I would recommend that we raise and appropriate $30,025.47 and transfer from sewer retained earnings. Oh, wait a minute, sorry, retract that. That we raise and appropriate $27,345.04 and transfer from sewer enterprise retained earnings $2,680.43.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And Chris, those numbers are right?
Those numbers are correct.
Okay, on discussion. Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mr. Rendon,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
and the chairman votes aye.
Number 6.
So I think number 6, part of our discussion also would be a raise and appropriate, because this is going to be a reoccurring articles since we're hiring a conservation agent. And 30,000 was for the full year, correct?
No.
It's,
It's 39 for the full
well,
year.
right. It's, what is it? Was it $30 an hour, 25 hours or something like that?
Yes,
Okay. So and if that was hired on December 1st, that would be 7 months. So,
Yeah, it's still probably a little high, even with the benefits and the taxes.
well, the benefits come out of a separate line, right?
correct.
Yeah, so. So I would recommend $20,000 for the remaining balance of the year. It's 17.5 at 7 months. We'll put a little bit of a buffer in there. And that we raise and appropriate $20,000 for the purpose of personnel expenses for the hiring of a conservation agent.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Selectman, do you have any questions on that?
No, I do have a question for them, but that's for after the vote.
Okay. All those, Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mr. Rendon,
Aye.
Chairman votes aye.
Just
Go
real
ahead, Brett,
quick,
you have the floor.
thank you, sir. To Selectman Goulart and Selectman Pacheco, we recommended the article as it is written, so the full 30,000, and I didn't know if you wanted to stand by that recommendation or change it.
I would ask the Finance Committee Chairman, is that figure correct as far as 7 months at $30 an hour for 25?
That's correct. It's I think it's 2,750. It's like, hold on, I'll give it to you exactly.
Yep.
25 hours at $30 an hour is $750 a week.
Right.
Times 52. And that's actually 39,000.
Yeah, we
So-
want to, we want to.
So the question is, what $30,000, that's why I asked, was $30,000 for 12 months?
No,
No,
Okay, so,
Ed, if you take,
yep,
January to June is 6 months. So let's say that's 24 weeks, 24 pays. And then you add the month of December, that's what, 28? Is that the number you were using?
no, I was basing it off of 30,000 for the whole year. I thought, that's why I asked if you guys had budgeted it for the
okay.
whole year.
Wait a minute. January to June is 26 weeks, roughly. 4 weeks in December make it
Yeah.
30. 30 times 750 brings you like to 22 and change, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, that's,
So
22.
20,000 is not enough.
right, you are correct. But that's why I asked the question if
Yeah,
30,000 was what you guys budgeted for the whole year. So
No.
I would ask the committee to amend that recommendation to $23,000. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
On discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Rendon,
Aye.
Mr. Roach,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
and the chairman votes yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Chairman Zagrafis and Mr. Chico.
Mr. Swartz, could we just go back to the previous article about the sewer commission? I can't figure that one out. It's for the clerical union contract. So they're looking for 30,000 in total, right?
Yep.
Well, there's
27 of that comes out of the town side and 2680 comes out of the sewer commission side for
Yeah,
their
it's not-
clerical employees.
it's not the source of funding I'm questioning. There are 2 people that work in that office that are in the union. I can't understand, they didn't get raises that equal that kind of money. The money that we should be budgeting or coming up with is the money over and above the budgeted salary, because we're trying to fund the increase due to a new collective bargaining agreement. those two people together did not get $30,000 in raises.
No, they got, no, Nancy, they got $2,680.43. The total of the whole contract is $30,025.47. The amounts are 27,345.04 to the bargain
All
side
right.
of the town.
Okay, I was
2,600 to the
thinking,
bargain side of the union. Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking because some of this is not a raise and appropriate. Should have been two articles, but no, that's all right. Let it go. It just
Okay.
was a curveball. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're good with Article 9 now. What's next, Pete?
Can we go back to Article 6?
Sure.
This is for the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen recommend that we raise and appropriate $23,000 for
A
the
second.
conservation agent.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, because even if there's like a couple of days, the rest of that money should take care of it.
Yeah, and then and we'll go into the next budgeting cycle knowing that there's gonna be additional funds have to go into that line.
Right.
Anything else?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye, did you hear me?
Yep, I heard you. Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Yep,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
yep. What's next, Pete?
Number 9.
Number 9.
Mr. Chairman, I've asked that the ADA coordinator be involved in this discussion of this article. You had some questions about it?
Yep,
So, Mr. Gale, this is on Article 9, $30,000 for the engineering services to make ADA improvements to Town Hall. Would you like to explain that to the Finance Committee, please?
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you've received today via the Board of Selectmen's office, the KMA document as well as the Town Hall document.
did not.
I did not know that, and I wish you had. It was given to the said secretary last night at another meeting, and I did ask that they make sure it was submitted to you today.
Mr. Gale, I do know that Karen was having problems with the internet with our,
Exactly, and I've had problems with it too, as well with the town, and I
Yes.
know others have too. So I will have to explain what this is for, basically, since you don't have the documents in front of you. And KMA is the company that was originally awarded the bid through the Mass Office of Disability to do the study that was done, which told us what we need to do for the town to bring us into the current environment for ADA criteria. As a result of that, one of the primary things that was noted was that the extensive work that the town hall needs to bring us up to ADA compliance. And it's not just that ramp that a lot of people talk about. It's the entrances, it's the lavatories, it's the water fountains, it's going from upstairs to downstairs with elevators. And that also extends to the areas of the parking lot, which need to be completely revamped in certain areas and leveled in certain ways as well. KMA would be the company who we would be contracting with to do the complete engineering study. They're the company, they have 4 architects who specialize in ADA and accessibility and resource. That's their mantra. They were providing us complete documents, blueprints, the sketches that we need, the diagrams that we need, the permits that we need, everything to go forward with the exception of obviously putting the bids out to contract for the work that would actually have to be done at that point. So they're going to give us a full report from A to Z and be fully invested. Also, several of the same staff that they have, including their architects who were involved in the original study, would be some of the same people involved in this part of the process in doing the entire engineering study and presenting the ultimate plan to the town with the budget. They would then further support us by using the budget information and the qualifiers, as well as their renderings and drawings, according to what they've explained, to help us search for grants on the state and federal level and work with, Serpent and other organizations to secure the funding for the process. So that's in essence what the $30,000 does. It gives us the entire engineering study and it gives us the blueprints to move forward, and as well as the permitting process. I will say personally, from what I know of this company, they've been around for quite a while. There is not many other companies in Massachusetts that I think are as qualified as they are to do this kind of work. They know their stuff. They know they're not just going to give us the minimum of what we need to do to become ADA compliant over whatever time it takes or years it takes. They're going to give us every single thing that we need. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to hear those questions.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any questions of the committee before I bring something up? Any?
Just one question of where the building inspector is in the process.
The response that I can give you is I have not had conversation with the building inspector on this process. I have reached out. I have not heard anything. I reached out to the town administrator prior to her departure for any comment on that, and I was not given any feedback from the building inspector either way. They would be working, and I will emphasize they would be working with the building inspector and certainly need the input of the building inspector as well. So Mr. Aguirre would be brought into the process. He would be involved in the process, probably more than any of us, with the exception of Mr. Aguirre, then myself and the company doing the work.
So here's where, and Peter, you all set? All right, so here's where and Mr. Gale, don't take any of this personally.
I don't.
And I, I think we all support that these are things we need to do. I just have a problem with a process that we're setting up of independent commissions that are appointed officials are making decisions that affect public buildings and public property without the expertly hired employees that we have in town.
This is not, let me suggest, this is not the commission making this recommendation that you hire KMA or any other company.
Okay.
This was a recommendation that was completely put together with our town administrator, and the parameters were agreed upon with KMA. Of the full scope of their contract was agreed upon with the town administrator prior to her leaving. I was not involved in that, nor was the commission involved in that.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. And my next question is really to the Board of Selectmen is, what is the oversight of this process now that we are acting without a town administrator?
Mr. Chairman, do you mean oversight of the implementation of this plan, or do you like
just coordinating
finances?
Coordinating the engineering services and being the go-to person within our town government that makes sure that the right people are involved and that the building inspector, who should be the key ally in working with the engineering firm to get what is necessary, since he at the end of the day is responsible for approving any of the improvements and upgrades to our buildings.
So Selectman Pacheco, I definitely want you to chime in on this. This is just I'm just going to give you my personal opinion on this, Mr. Chairman. My personal opinion is this specific project, we're lucky to have a liaison on the ADA Commission from the Board of Selectmen. That would be Selectman Pacheco. So my understanding or my impression would be that Selectman Pacheco, as the liaison to the Board of Selectmen on the ADA Commission, would be the one working with the ADA coordinator and the commission and the building commissioner to make all of this possible regarding the study, and then post-study trying to implement some of the things that are uncovered from the study. Basically, that was my impression of everything, and I don't know if I'm alone in that, but since the town administrator left, who would probably have been doing a lot of that and was doing a lot of that, I would think that the liaison would be assisting a little bit with the coordinating side of it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Gale. Let me just throw one thing in there to answer a little bit of what I think you're getting at as well. And if I'm wrong, feel free to say so. But once the engineering firm has let us know that they're approximately 80% through with their engineering study and their plan development. The Mass Office of Disability, Jeff Dugan, who is their deputy director, has offered to work with the town, and he is their CAM coordinator as well, Community Access Monitor Coordinator for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Office of Disability. He would then offer the services of himself and MOD to be working with the town, with the engineering company, and with Mr. Aguirre to make sure that every single spec is up to the code it has to be, and that it meets all of the criteria that's expected under the ADA criteria for the Commonwealth of Mass and the Justice Department as well, the federal criteria. So I don't know if that answers you, but they've.
It does. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Gill. Does any of the other committee, Mrs. Gould, let me just check if any other finance committee members first, Nance, and then anybody on the finance committee?
Just one, in regards to that, so the CAM, state's CAM person, the town equivalent would basically be Mr. Aguirre, right?
Mr. Aguirre is not certified as CAM. He does not have that certification. I have that, that's Community Access Monitoring certification. That's for Title II buildings and premises, which this is. Mr. Aguirre does not have that specific certification. I do, but I happen to be blind. So in this case, that would be the Jeff Dugan, who's the director of the Mass Office of Disability, has offered his services.
Right. I think we're talking about different CAMs.
We may be, but I don't know what you're referring to otherwise.
Capital Asset Management.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Goulart?
I understand all the conversation that's going on. I'm going to back up. I'm going to start at the beginning. I didn't realize the building commissioner hasn't been involved in this. I really think, quite frankly, it would have been nice if he had been involved, and he's sitting here tonight. I'm going to suggest we don't take action on this until we get him involved. As I mentioned to my colleagues, we're probably going to have another special, because there is one pilot agreement, the last one that came in, that just went out back to the developer. It's not on the warrant. We got two on here for our town meeting, and we're hoping that we get the agreed upon document from the Blue Wave company or whatever. If we don't have that, we can't act on this, which means we will have 3 pilot agreements coming to a special town meeting. Now, we're hopeful we will have Blue Wave, because Attorney Costa has gone through it, marked it all up. We sent it off to them and said, here's the draft that the town is looking at. So we still have a pilot agreement that we're going to have to act on. This can be an article on that warrant for that special town meeting. In the meantime, I really think Selectman Pacheco and Mr. Gale and whoever else should be involved. Get in touch with Mr. Aguirre and tell him this is coming up. Explain the whole thing to him, because we'll want him to tell us, give us a recommendation, or tell us something. I'm uncomfortable saying, let's put the contract out, and we'll tell Jim after the fact, hey, this study is going to be done and you're involved. That's not how you do things. And he is a chief person in the whole project. So my suggestion is we don't act on it at this one, but we put it on the special, because we know there's another pilot coming.
Selectman Goulart? No,
Yeah.
I'm not giving my opinion on your statements, but I believe at our 2 meetings ago, at the second to last Board of Selectmen's meeting, this article was, I think we recommended this. So if you want to do what you're saying, then I think we may need to take another vote, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't want to vote against this thing and say, kill it completely. I understand all of the discussion and about the need for this specialized, I'll call it a specialized type of engineering study. I thought Jim Aguirre was involved. I never would have agreed to go this far. I just found out tonight he hasn't been involved. And if I were in his position and I was told, by the way, we're having an engineering study with so-and-so, and you're a key person in this, I'd be looking around like, you're telling me now? Wait a minute. I mean, that's all I'm saying. And I agree with you. I think that the Board of Selectmen should personal opinion, I would make a motion that we defer this until the next special, because I know we've got to have one, unless DG completely says, hey, I don't like your terms for that pilot agreement, and I'm not going to do business with you. But they want that agreement, and it's not on this warrant. So I see another town meeting. It'll be a fast one, I hope. I mean, but that's what I'm suggesting.
So, Mr. Gale, Mr. Gale, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Is this work that won't be done until the spring anyway?
No, they
Or
would,
is this something that will get started now?
they would be able to start now. COVID is not an issue. It was not an issue when they did the study before. They were able to work around it. They would make arrangements to do the work with Mr. Aguirre. He would be the point person that they would be working with. It certainly would not be with me. So
All right.
if
So-
the recommendation is for this to
so-
go forward, they would be working with Jim.
So I have a question, Mr. Pacheco.
Yes,
When is specials next week, right? Next week or the week after?
the 16th, it's a.
The
a week
16th.
Monday. It's the
So
week.
between now and the 16th, because I don't want to just take it off for the sake of taking it off. And as the liaison, could you reach out to Mr. Aguirre and get some feedback from him? And we will meet just prior to special to make a determination on what we would like to do with this, because I don't want to just bury it for the sake of holding it off. If the building inspector thinks it is a positive step in the right direction and thinks that we should, because in the interim, because I believe that we'd be having a different discussion if the town administrator were still here, because she'd be able to fill in some of the gaps.
Yes,
But I think if we reach out to Mr. Aguirre and get him into the loop on it and get some feedback from him before the special, we may be able to just do this at the special, because I think at the end of the day, we're going to do this. But I think I think the feeling I'm getting is people just want to make sure everyone's aligned in it. And I don't think people feel comfortable with that right now.
Mr. Chairman, I will make sure also in the meantime that you
Yeah.
and the Finance Committee have the scope documents as well.
Yes, yeah.
So
So
we
Ken, are you
have
good
that.
with that?
yes, I am. I will reach out to Mr. Aguirre and I'll have a report, just be prior to our special town meeting. I know the Board of Selectmen are going to meet prior to the special town meeting, and I assume you guys want to meet also. so-
Yeah, we'll do something in that last second. So I would ask that we continue to hold and not make a recommendation on Article 9 until that night.
Okay, that's fine with me, Ed.
Yep.
So
That's
I
fine
just-
with me.
Just to wrap this up, though, the Board of Selectmen did vote to recommend this, and we haven't taken any action. I am going to stand by my vote on recommending this, so I'm not going to change my vote, but I do want the facilities manager to be more involved if that is the case, if they need to be more involved. But I do support this article, so I'm not going to change my vote.
Yeah.
But if the board would like to if someone would like to make a motion to change our recommendation, I am happy to entertain it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a recommendation to change it. I agree with what Mr. Swartz said. We're going to hear from the building commissioner. I would ask the building commissioner to come to that meeting and give us his opinion. If by any chance we hear something that would want the Board of Selectmen to defer this to another meeting, that's fine. If
Mhm.
not, we don't have to do anything. But I think it's important that Jim come to the next meeting.
Yep, no disagreement. Thank you.
Okay,
Selectman.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I will ask them to come to the meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you,
you.
guys. All right, Pete, what's next?
12.
12. Oh, getting there. Oh, on 12, I think it's the motion is to recommend that this be transferred from PEG. Is
Yep.
that correct, Chris?
yeah, that's my
That's
understanding.
Okay, so the motion on this one would be to recommend to transfer from PEG access cable the amount of $14,000 to purchase and install equipment in Old Town Hall.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. On discussion, the vote, Mr. Rendon,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Roach.
Aye.
Next up, Pete, I'm assuming is Article 13.
No, we took 13 with no recommendation, more planning.
Okay,
That's it. That's the last hold.
that's the last hold?
Yep.
Okay, so Chris, if, we'll send you all of our recommendations. Can you just update or put another column that shows what will be remaining in free cash? And
Yes.
where we are on the levy limit?
Absolutely.
All right, the last point I have is I received a phone call from the chairman of the Regional School Committee this morning, just to give us an update on, because with Mrs. Goulart's note a couple weeks ago and watching the school committee meeting, they have not changed their budget at all. So based on that, they did have a reduction in Chapter 70. And they did have, because they didn't have an approved budget, the state now goes by the July or August 1st minimum contribution. So our minimum contribution did go up by like $60,000, which it wouldn't have gone up until next budget season, but for the second year in a row, because they don't have a budget in time, it will go up. I shared with them, that would have been nice to know 6 weeks ago before the town put a STM warrant together. So at this time, until the state finalizes the budget or tells them what the budget is going to be, I recommend that we do nothing. We do have some funds if we need to go back, but like I shared with him, the most difficult part is after the special town meeting, we will be setting our tax rate. So there is no way to raise additional funds if we are under the levy limit for the school department to be able to provide additional funds. So it would either be some kind of one-time, or they're going to need to address the assessment internally with their budget. And I shared that pretty sternly with him, that this is not how communication has ever been, that we find out things through watching a meeting, and that the frustration and disappointment of having an agreed upon number, because they were side by side with us at annual town meeting. And I get the Chapter 70 thing that came up and the minimum contribution, but asking for what they're telling people or conveying that we should go up to what their original budgeted assessment number was not in the cards. So that's what I shared with them, and there's no action that needs to be taken, but I just wanted to fill everybody in.
Ed, a question?
Sure.
Me?
Yep.
So if the additional is 60,000, I don't understand why they're asking for like 260,000 or whatever that number is.
Because the number we voted at annual town meeting was about $120,000 less than what they originally requested. But we were aligned on that. They had agreed with that. In fact, I went to the school committee meeting the week before our annual and said, we are all aligned on this, right? The superintendent and the business manager and the chairman of the school committee, we talked, you guys are gonna find it. Then they made no budget reductions. So even though they all agreed, they never did anything about it. So there is one school committee member who wasn't at the meeting where they all said they were aligned, is advocating this thing that, well, Dayton didn't agree to our number. We never took our budget down, and they have created their own hullabaloo.
So it would seem from a common sense standpoint, if the district said, our Chapter 78's been cut by 60, can you help us out to the tune of 60,000? That would be one issue. This is a stunt. And I hope they see this on YouTube, because this town has always, quite frankly, what is occurring right now is historic. This has never happened in the regional district in all of the time. I mean, to not to set out and say you have an agreement with a town, and it's certainly in the case of Dayton, there's always been agreement before we go to town meeting.
Right.
So for this to happen now at this late date, and it's not even the amount of the reduction of the state aid, this is not acceptable. This is
Nope.
just wrong. This is just
Totally agreed.
wrong.
Totally agreed. There was no communication. It was all by the school committee. you know, Nancy, you and I have been at this a long time, and this committee's been together a long time. We have always had open discussions about it. I've always been able to bring back what the feedback was, why we needed it, and they chose not to communicate it, and I'm not sure why.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, look at the surprise guest.
Yes.
Oh,
So
hello.
we have a surprise guest, and I think they have more information on the article regarding the engineering study. So I don't know if you wanted to yield the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Well, so former Madam Administrator, if you just give us a second to finish our school discussion, then we'll go back to that. You're on mute, but that's okay. I'm sure you will. So.
I said, of course, absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us. So yeah, it is, Nancy. There's just been the total lack of administration communication on it has, and I give the chairman of the school committee, he has shared what, you know, he's frustrated that no one reached out to us either, and he's going to address it from his side too, that it's just not acceptable.
This is truly unprecedented. This has never happened before. Never. Not with
Yeah.
the town of Dayton.
And I will tell you, administration would say, oh, we've communicated with Dayton, we've done this, and I would talk to Mallory, and I'd go, I talk to Mallory 3 times a week. There's no discussion from the school department. They don't share that information. They do it in a bubble and then claim something else. So, all right. Well, I think we're all aligned on that. I just wanted to fill the committee in on that. So Mallory, welcome back.
Clearly, I can't stay away.
You heard the discussion I'm sure someone filled you in. That's why you're here.
Well, I heard there were questions, and I'd
yeah.
love to answer them.
Yeah. So, I don't know who wants to start. I think it's that you were the coordinator. You with Mr. Gale were the coordinator on putting this together. So we would have assumed if you were still here that's the process that would have taken place. But I think
I lost him. Is that me?
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, it must be you, Mel. Oh, are you
Yeah,
still
I
there?
can hear you now. It's me.
Okay.
I stopped moving. I'm stopped moving. Yep.
That's okay.
Can you?
I can hear you. You go in and out, but we can hear you. The question was what involvement the building inspector should have.
So this was an independent audit. So really nobody from the town should really influence it other than to say, this is our building or this is the program we run and here's what we do. So Jim assisted me in escorting these folks around our buildings and our exterior properties. Then on the completion of the draft form, we sent it out to every department head. So not just Jim, but everybody. And they had the ability to comment on it. And they also had the ability to comment on their programs, fill out surveys before the draft report was even compiled. So I would argue that everybody had the opportunity to weigh in, but the auditor is supposed to amass all that information and then provide a plan on how we can become ADA compliant. Albeit it is recommendations on bare minimum compliance. It's not the full shebang, which I know was talked about before I departed the town, but it is just supposed to be a guide and a transition plan to our fully compliant.
So that's what the engineers are doing. It's not like an engineering design plan. It's an audit.
Are we talking about two different
article?
things?
For the warrant article?
Yeah, for the warrant article.
The warrant article, I actually put on there as an engineered design plan for a ramp, elevator, and then to do the ramp, it involves moving some pieces in the parking lot at Town Hall. Nancy, can you hear me?
Yeah, and
Okay.
when you started out, it sounded like everyone was involved in the initial study, and I understand that because I saw the report.
Right.
So in talking about the 30,000 for this engineering study, it sounds like now engineers would look at what the needs are and come up with a complete plan of everything that needs to be done at Town Hall.
Yes.
And Mr. Gale had said that Mr. Aguirre was key And when we asked about Jim's involvement, it was like, well, he hasn't been involved. So the question was, I said, I'm uncomfortable.
Right, yeah.
You know,
So
Mrs.
he
Goulart,
knows it's happening, and he would be involved if the money went through at town meeting. He'd be involved working with the engineers to talk about town hall.
okay.
And then the
All
right.
proposal I did leave with Karen, Mrs. Brady, it's in my fall town meeting folder. And I asked them for a set proposal, which would be the ramp, the elevator, and the parking lot, and then an alternate that would include all of the items that were listed in this transition plan for town hall, period. And
Okay.
you can choose whether or not you want to do everything. I think it included the bubbler and the bathrooms. But again, that's a decision that the, you guys would make, what, how you wanted to proceed. But the proposal, Nancy, if you want to look at it, it's in the office. I left it with Karen.
Okay,
Mrs.
but the
Mrs. Goulart, this-
30,000 would give us everything we're looking for, Mallory?
I'm sorry, what
The
was that?
30,000 that's on the article
It's the
would
whole
provide
shebang.
everything. Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Mrs.
I
Mrs.
think so.
Goulart, I
Yeah,
just,
I think so.
this is Mr. Gale, and I do want to just clarify that my comment about Mr. Aguirre being and not being involved did not refer, was any way to be taken that he was not involved in the study process. He was very involved. And that's
Oh, I
why I
know
said
that.
he was with the folks when they did the walkthroughs of the different buildings in town and so forth.
I
He was-
know that. I was questioning his involvement with the actual engineering study.
Right, and
What
with
his
the-
role would be.
Yeah,
and that would be a separate role. And yes, he would be involved in that, and they do want him involved in that. Mallory, so that you are aware, Madam Administrator, unfortunately, we've had an issue with emails the last couple of days in town. So
Yeah.
the documents that you're referring to, they don't have at their disposal to look at. So
I
they,
did want to add one thing. Mr. Rauner is coming out Monday to address that issue. So it is a known issue, and we apologize. It will be addressed.
I just
All right,
wanted Madam Administrator to know that.
Mallory, thanks for clarifying that for us. Much appreciated. I still want to wait until we get the emails and all those documents, Jonathan. That's
That's
why
fine.
it's a good idea for us to do it prior to, and I don't think the selectmen need to take any action at this time anyway. So it's a good clarification for us, and we'll make sure everybody on the committee gets those documents. And 10 minutes before the special, we can make a determination if we're going to recommend it or not. So
Right, and Mr. Aguirre will be there.
yeah, and I think there's no harm, no foul in doing it that way. So
That works.
Mallory, you want to stay a couple minutes? We have one more thing that I'm sure you were involved in at the beginning.
I was just gonna say thank you for letting me speak on it. I appreciate it. Sorry for my sweatshirt.
So, hey, so I know, Pete, you said there wasn't, but there was one other thing that I don't think we finalized, and I had, was the revolving account for police maintenance or police cruiser.
Article 18.
So I did have a chance to speak with the chief today, and actually earlier in the week, and shame on me, he texted me and said, hey, you never sent me the link. So I didn't send him the link, but I did have a conversation with him on oversight and what why they were requesting this. And I know there's some disagreement on the Board of Selectmen on this, and we did have some vibrant discussion last week. I just want to understand from the Board of Selectmen why it's not, because it's not a huge amount of money, and it really would not affect our free cash availability, because it's from incoming funds that are only acquired as we put a vehicle out to the site where there is a detail. In some years, if there's no details, we get no money into it. But
There's always details.
I know, but I just think it's a good safety account based on what we went through this year with the unfortunate accident and losing a second cruiser. It gives us the ability to tap into something in those emergency situations, and how it's implemented between oversight. That's between the Board of Selectmen and the chief or whoever the maintenance person is for the police department, because in all state law says is you can outline and have a revolving account, and directed funds can come from a source. So it meets all the criteria of having a single source. And I just think to what we've gone through and where we've matriculated, and it's not taken away, we still have the commitment that we are committed to one vehicle every year. And we've done that for the last, I think, since the power plant program stopped probably 7-8 years ago now. So we've gotten into a good rotation. And I think we just need to look at this a little bit outside of that as an effective area that allows us to maybe even keep vehicles longer, because there's extraordinary maintenance that we can't do that maybe through this fund we could do, but allows us some flexibility in our fleet. So I know there's some disagreement on it, but that's my 2 cents. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to add, and you know, we can let the taxpayers decide, but I think there's good arguments on both sides, but that's just my 2 cents. So I'll open it up to the finance committee first. Does anybody has anything to add on that?
I just feel this isn't adding revenue, it's just earmarking revenue
Yes.
already coming in.
Yeah, and I think this year and this was a really heavy year of outdoor details. Because remember, this is not, if we have a detail at the high school for a basketball game, they don't have a cruiser assigned to it. And this is being paid for by this. These funds are coming from whoever hires the detail, whether it be the gas company or National Grid, or, you know, it's those types of bringing a vehicle to those details. So anybody from the Board of Selectmen have anything to ask? Then I'm going to ask the former town administrator if she wants to weigh in for just outside,
No, I support
outside counsel.
I support this. I think in a tough fiscal year, maybe down the road, maybe not in the short term, it could actually help us. It could help us in an emergency if a new cruiser is needed, if something happens. We have actually had a case where we needed to get a new cruiser because one was damaged. So there is precedent for this. I understand the arguments on both sides, so no hard feelings, but I will be supporting it.
Yeah, understand it would take us probably 3 to 4 years to have enough money in the fund to purchase a cruiser.
Absolutely.
Or purchase some kind of vehicle within the police department. So, and Nancy?
So for the other side,
Sure.
again, first of all, it's not going to take place till 2022. Why are we even got it on the warrant now? This should be on a warrant in 2022, or at least FY22. Mr. Laviolette, where are we with our accounts receivable for this kind of money? I know there has been a lag collecting money for actual paying the details, and the town has been upfronting that, and then we wait for the money. If we're waiting for money to pay from them to reimburse the town for us paying money out, where are we with collecting for the cruises, cruiser detail, number one? The other thing is, in all honesty, we really put in some extremely stringent controls before FY20 ended. And we told everybody that FY21 is going to be tight. All of our department heads who have approved budgets have been told, you are limited to what you can spend unless you hit a certain threshold, at which point you've got to come to the Board of Selectmen. How do we justify allowing, if it's 20, 25,000 a year, to go to one department when, quite frankly, guys, that department has always been taken well care of? We gave them 2 cruises this year. That cruiser that hit that mystery rock in the road, we get a lot of those turning up over the years. Anyhow, we collected 11 grand in insurance on that. Okay, and we were not without cruises. There are cruises that sit in the parking lot that can be used. But I got to look across the whole spectrum. When we have approved budgets and we tell department heads, we're putting a clamp on those and you cannot exceed, and we gave them all limits. If you need more money, you've got to come to the Board of Selectmen. That's why we have this article on our agenda for every meeting about, is there a request special approval for spending? The need isn't there. Maintenance is done at the highway garage. And if it can't be done there, it goes to the dealer under warranty, or it goes to whoever is qualified to fix it. But I'm not aware that other than warranty work on cruises have left town. You know, that's not the case with the fire department. Maybe that we ought to give them money to set aside, because when their stuff goes out of town, ka-ching, ka-ching. But in any case, I'm looking at this strictly as the controls we put in place, fairness to everybody across the board. And I don't see the need.
So I just want to, I respectfully disagree that on this specific, and this is where we have to, you take things on specific face value of what they are. Because if you look at this one, this is not being funded in the same way as other departments or how it happens. It's no different than, you know, I know, is it Park and Recreation has revolving funds where they used to take the money from programs that might have been in my previous life, that the funds from the summer camps that they run go into a revolving account to be utilized by Parks and Rec.
Self-supporting.
This is funds that come from the utilization of a cruiser at a detail. So it's taking the funds and reallocating them right now to what the fund comes in for that specific purpose, utilization of a cruiser. So I think putting it in a broad spectrum and saying, well, we don't do it for this department, it's a little bit different. And that's why I have, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't. But I just think that it's a fiscally smart move to be able to plan for maintenance of something that's not, that we revolve and we do every single year. We put money towards the cruises, and like, yeah, we got $11,000 back, but it cost us a lot more than $11,000 to replace that cruiser when we had that accident. So my feeling as a fiscally responsible for this, in my opinion, is to do something like this. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I think there's some good forethought in why it's being recommended. So,
does anybody know why 2022 is in there?
Yeah, that's a good. Thanks for bringing that
That
up.
makes
Nancy.
no sense at all.
May
Why
I
are we
ask
doing
a
this?
question about that? So
Yeah, that was my other
have
question.
I have no background into why that year was chosen. I don't know if you do, Madam Administrator. However, I do. Is this something we can change or amend on town meeting floor, the date, that year?
You haven't posted your agenda yet, right? Oh, no, you have the second.
Yeah.
So if it's listed in the warrant, you can't really change that, if it's specified in the article.
So my question is that to that point, because that's a really valid point, Nance. If it's not going into effect, and you know, everyone knows how I feel about big things that go on STM, and this is not a huge thing, but I would prefer that things like this are on annual town meeting warrants. And, you know, because
like
it is a
our
change.
others.
Yeah, it is a change. And
Because we
if
vote
truly
those others every year.
and Dr. Zagross, if it's truly not going in to effect or proposed, I would prefer that we vote on this at the annual town meeting, because it still can be implemented for FY22 if we do it at the annual town meeting.
Yeah, I'll support it. You know, when we're ready, maybe that'll
Yeah.
give us some more time to figure out what's going on with
Yeah.
things like our COVID situation.
Yeah, so if that date can't be changed because it's been posted that way, then I would prefer that we table it until the annual town meeting for implementation in FY22.
You could
Good.
say it's a Scrivener's error. I don't know why it says 22. Like if legal came back and said you had to start it in FY22 because it's a different fiscal
Yeah,
year, but if there's not a reason for that, you could say it's a Scrivener's error.
Okay, so,
You know,
All right, so
you have
let's-
options.
yeah, so Dr. Zagross, can you check into that if it was legally binding that it had to be FY22? And if that's the case, I would recommend that we hold it until annual town meeting.
I will do that. Thank you.
And then we'll just discuss this again just before, because it's not, I mean, we can make a recommendation. It's not a hard one to either say, yeah, we're going to support it as a committee, or no.
Ed, one other thing.
Yep,
I had asked the town accountant, when you get a chance, Chris, would you look and tell us what the arrears are on the receivables for cruisers? I don't think they pay them separate. I think, in other words, if it was a utility company, we'd bill them for the hours for the detail and we'd bill them for the cruiser hours.
Okay.
I think they pay it all together, so I need to know what's the accounts receivable on, I'll call it cruiser use on details.
But Nancy, just so you know, the police detail accounts, including payment for the police officers and for the cruisers, is all on a cash basis. So you'd have to ask the chief and Carlene for that detail. They should be maintained.
That's fine. Nance, I'll reach out to the chief and I'll get that information.
I know, Chris, you can look in the last audit. It will tell you, at least as of the last audit, what the deficit was, because it's
you mean
always
as far
run a
as- Yeah, so
deficit.
the only deficit that we recognize is for the off-duty police detail. There is no deficit recognized on the
Cruiser admin.
administrative fee or on the cruiser fee. It just comes in as a cash receipt. So there is
So
no
if it's
deficit to
not- But if
recognize.
it's not recognized as a deficit, my question is, do they bill the utility company on the same invoice for both labor and for equipment? Equipment would be the
Yes.
cruiser. All right, so you would know what the accounts receipt, somebody has to know what the receivable is so that when the money comes in, they can allocate it. So that's the number we should know. Whether it's in the chief's office or wherever. That's what I'm looking for.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ken, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm in agreement with what Mrs. Goulart said. I don't think that this is the right time. However, I would be interested if we can change that date. I mean, the police cruisers have always been maintained, so this isn't stopping them from being maintained. It's
Right.
just, it's not, it's giving the Board of Selectmen a little bit more control over the funds. That's all.
Okay,
We'll see what happens.
okay. Thanks, Ken.
And
Any other? Oh, go ahead, Dr. Zagros.
no, I was just going to ask you, Mr. Chairman, what are the questions you wanted me to look into with town council to see if we can amend
Yeah, if what the rationale was for the FY22 date on that, because it was a newly created revolving account, did it have to wait to the start of the next fiscal year?
Thank you, sir. I will get that info and CC you on it.
Okay,
And report back to my selectmen colleagues as well.
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions of the Finance Committee? Well, Mallory, thank you for joining us.
Yes, the
Thank you.
parents.
Thank you for
John-
having me. Did
Oh.
you
Always welcomed.
want me to say anything on this, or it sounds like you guys have made your
No, I think we're good. I think
decision?
we're good.
Okay.
I gotta get
Okay.
back to see if Georgia turns. It's down to 3,500 votes.
I'm stress eating, got candy. Okay, bye everybody. Good to
Bye,
see
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Mallory.
Night, night.
All right.
Bye.
So is there if there's no other questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, Ed, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Ed,
Yes, Nance.
okay. We've got those 2 pilot agreements on the warrant. So on the night of the town meeting, if we have the completed agreement, the other side totally agrees with what Matt Costa has put together, and the selectmen say, okay, we can vote tonight to approve the articles, approve the pilot agreements. They will be voted on at the town meeting. And I had asked you if you would be willing to make a recommendation based on an approved agreement. There'll be 2 of them. So I just put that out to you so that on that night, agenda item for you would be, if those pilots are ready, we would ask the Finance Committee. And we can ask Karen to email out the mocked up agreement that Matt Costa has done to all of the Finance Committee members. So if you have questions ahead of time, we can get some answers for you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll add that to our discussion just prior to, as long as we have the information so we have the opportunity to read the agreement.
Right, and if, again, if they don't accept what's written, then we can't vote on them, but they will come up again, and you will, if we have to make any adjustments, the
Yeah.
FinCom will get a copy of the very latest one that we're ready to really vote on at town meeting, whenever that is, okay?
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
No discussion on an adjournment motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you all for and have a great evening.
Oh, Brett, motion to adjourn.
Oh,
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions, roll call?
aye.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good
thank
night,
you all.
everyone.
Good night.